You're listening to Popcorn Unscripted,
the podcast where we dive into movies and TV shows with no scripts, no filters, just real talk and plenty of popcorn.
I'm Bailey.
And I'm Dylan.
We're here to talk about everything we love
and love to hate
in pop culture. So grab your popcorn,
sit back,
and let's get this show started. Everybody, I am sitting here with Alan Katz, the producer and writer of Tales from the Crypt, both the TV show and the movie. So how are you doing today, Alan?
Oh, I'm doing very, very well. How are you today, Bailey?
I'm doing very, very well. I have been super excited for this. I've watched both of the movies today, and I've watched a little bit of season 3 today as well. So I'm super excited for this conversation.
Season 3 was when I joined the party.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
But because you've watched the first 2 seasons, a lot of what I'm going to tell you will have context.
Okay.
And hey, in storytelling, isn't context everything?
Yeah, I agree.
Where would you like to begin?
So we'll start with the show first.
Okay.
So I've got a bunch of questions here to ask you. Actually, before that, would you like to tell my audience who you are and what else you have worked on other than Tales from the Crypt?
If you like, I'll tell the whole story, which will take us into Tales from the Crypt, and then, like I said, context is everything.
Yeah, for sure. Go for it.
Okay, cool. I grew up on the East Coast. I grew up outside of Baltimore. I went to school in New York. I went to Vassar. I was a drama major. I was a drama-rama in high school. I was one of those, always did all the plays. And I went to Vassar. I was a drama major. Thought I was going to be an actor. I have written my whole life. I've always
Wow.
been a writer. Always. I've been writing professionally since I was 16. It was the first time I ever got paid to write was when I was 16. And I always took writing for granted. It was just something that, it's like breathing.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought I'd be an actor. I went to one audition after I graduated from Vassar, and I was unprepared. I was terrible. And I walked out and I said to myself, what kind of an idiot earns a living this way? I'm going to go be a writer instead. Really, actually, bigger idiot. And I said to myself, I was never going to act again until someone asked me nicely, which I kept to. And yeah, the couple times I've acted since, a friend who directed an episode of America's Most Wanted asked me nicely to be in an episode. And Mick Garris, the director Mick Garris, directed an episode of Crypt. And he asked me very nicely to be in an episode, and I said yes.
Really? Wow.
We'll get to all of that. I went to writing. I was writing training films and industrial films in New York. I had a friend from school named Carol Yumkas who had become an agent at William Morris in Los Angeles, the big talent agency. And she said, knowing that I was now writing, you should try writing a screenplay. And so I did, and I sent it to her. And she said, this is pretty good. You should come out and meet and greet people. And so in June of 1985, I flew out to Los Angeles for a week to meet and greet people. Now, I was a hardcore wannabe New Yorker at that point. I was living in New York, and I was, I'm a New Yorker and a theater person. To me, Los Angeles was the stupidest place on the planet. The land of the avocado head. I went, and well, first of all, June in New York, it's like June in Alabama. I'm sure it's hot, it's humid. In New York, every place smells like urine. In Los Angeles, it's the desert. There's no humidity. And in June, the weather was fantastic. This was 40 years ago. It was a lot less crowded than it is today.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And the people were so nice to me. They blew copious amounts of smoke up my ass. That was enthralling. And then one night, my agent Carol took me to a movie premiere, St. Elmo's Fire. William Morris represented it, and this was a backstage view of this experience. Well, incredibly heady and intoxicating stuff. At the party afterwards, someone said, since I had no meetings of any kind the next morning, they said, you should take a drive through Topanga Canyon. It's really pretty, they said. And so that's what I did the next morning. And Topanga Canyon is within the city limits of Los Angeles. It's the northernmost part along the beach. And as you drive from the freeway, the 101, through the Santa Monica Mountains, as they plunge into water at the PCH,
Oh, wow.
by the time I got to the water, New York, screw New York, LA had completely seduced me. And the very next month I moved out, and I have this wandering Jew finally found a home.
Wow.
Among the first people that I met that first week in New York was a producer named Gil Adler. And Gil became my best friend and for a decade, and my creative partner. We became writing partners. Now, though I made my living in horror and sci-fi to a lesser degree, but horror,
Okay.
I'm not a horror guy.
Really?
When I went to New York, I was writing comedies. I was a comedy guy, total comedy
Okay.
guy. And Gil also was a comedy guy. Now, Gil, he came out of the theater in New York as a producer of theater in New York and also comedy. But Gil trained as an accountant. And having trained as an accountant, he understood that if you have $1 to make your TV show or movie, don't spend $1. You haven't got it. If you can make your TV show for 99 cents, 98 cents, still make it look like the dollar, well, now you're on to something. Oh, better yet, if you could do it for 97 cents and make it look like $1 or $2, now you're on to something. The creative process is really just problem solving.
Right.
And Gil's answer to solving creative problems wasn't throw more money at it, it was throw more creativity at it.
Right.
Which was exactly how I approached the creative problem solving. And so we became incredibly tight partners. Now, Gil became, HBO became aware of Gil, and he produced a TV show for them called The Hitchhiker up in Vancouver.
Okay.
And, they saw that he was an incredible, responsible producer. A couple of years later, they had a problem production that needed a strong producer to step in and fix it. It was called Vietnam War Stories. It was shooting in Savannah. It was way over budget and way over schedule. And they sent Gil in, and not only did he solve it and fix it and bring it in, it won awards.
Wow.
A little while later, HBO had another problem like that with a big money, big name production, and they brought Gil in to fix it. And that was Tales from the Crypt.
Wow.
Now, when the first season of Tales from the Crypt, back when Tales from the Crypt started in the early 1990s, 1,000 years ago, it was a very different landscape. These days, performers can go between TV and movies back and forth. It didn't make any difference. But back then, that was not the case at all. TV was here and features were way over here. And the occasional Tom Hanks or Robin Williams could go from TV to features. But if you were going from features into TV, that meant your career was going down there. So HBO at that time was still mostly movies, and they were just dipping their toe into original programming. They had a thing called First and 10, another called Dream On. But these were basically just single camera shows with profanity and nudity. If you took the profanity and the nudity out, they're basically just network ready single camera shows. There was nothing remarkable about them.
Right.
Then you had these 4 Hollywood mega producers, movie producers, Joel Silver, Richard Donner, Walter Hill, and Bob Zemeckis. I mean, just huge movie names. Approach HBO and they said, we have a passion project, a comic book we loved from our boyhoods, Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, all the EC Comics horror comics. And they said, we want to bring our passion project, but put a feature film sized vision inside your little TV box. And HBO jumped up and down and said, okay, do whatever the hell you want, boys. And so they went right to work writing scripts. Now, normally, when you go to develop a TV show, especially if you're going to translate something from one medium, comic books, say, into another
Mm-hmm.
TV show, say, you need at least one person overseeing the process of carrying of translating the things that are, let's call them the franchise in the comic books into this other medium. It doesn't transfer itself just because you put a name on it. You have to
Right.
deliberately take all those elements and
Mm-hmm.
embed them. It starts with the script.
Right.
Well, they never did that. And so no one was responsible for overseeing the franchise or being the story editor. There was nobody. They just wrote scripts. So no development process. They also, the way that TV works financially is, well, whatever the network is, the first time they run it, they pay a license fee to run the show.
Right.
Second time, they pay a license fee. But that first time or two, that whatever the license fee is that they're paying, that's never going to pay for the cost of production. That's going to be repeated showings over time. You need a deficit partner to cover the actual cost of production until hopefully this TV show episode or show gets to profitability.
Right.
Just as they never got anyone to develop the show, they never got a deficit partner. The first season of Crypt was the first 3 episodes that the executive producers did. Bob Zemeckis's All Through the Night, Dick Donner's Dig This Cat, He's Real Gone, and
Mm-hmm.
Walter Hill's The Man Who Was Death. And then they ordered a back 3 HBO did, which are not nearly as good as the first 3. And that was the first season. For the second season, HBO ordered 18 episodes with an additional third season of 13 episodes. And so success, raging success for the Crypt partners. Wow, we're in the TV business now. And they began making episodes. But no one was minding the budget.
Oh,
the
no.
night before the second season wrap party, HBO, who had been cash flowing everything, handed the executive producers a financial statement that said, if you want your third season, where there was considerable money in the budget for the executive producers, you need to pay us back for the overage on season 2. It's $1 million. Get out your checkbooks. The executive producers promptly canceled the wrap party. They fired everybody and they got out their checkbooks and paid HBO the $1 million so that they could make more money on season 3. So there was going to be a season 3, but HBO wanted to have some say in who the producer was this time because
Right.
they didn't want to cash flow this again. So they went to Gil, producer who they trusted.
Mm-hmm.
And so Gil, the executive producers, the Crypt partners, they didn't care. They got their money. They were going to get their money. As far as they were concerned, that was going to be season 3 was going to be the end of Tales from the Crypt. They make their money. They had their money. They made their TV show back to their world of making movies. Yeah, they had fun. It was a lark. It was neither here nor there to them.
Right.
Because I was Gil's writing partner and because there was no one in the story editor or doing that job, they didn't care. Nobody cared. And so even though I did not have the bona fides, the qualifications to be the showrunner of Tales from the Crypt, I became the showrunner of Tales from the Crypt. I had 2 jobs at Tales from the Crypt.
Okay.
The first was I was the story editor. I was the last word on every script before it went out to our department heads, to casting. Every script had to go through me. I was the last rewriter of every single script. That was, and my job was to make sure that everything from the comic book that had to be on screen
Right.
got there. My other job was to write the Crypt Keeper segments. Now, they never developed the show. They never got a deficit partner, and they never developed the Crypt Keeper. As a matter of fact, the Crypt Keeper in the comic books is an old white guy with stringy hair.
Really?
The executive producers wanted their own Crypt Keeper. And one day, purely by chance, at a storage facility in the middle of the valley here, Joel Silver bumped into Kevin Yeager, special effects maestro Kevin Yeager, when he saw what Kevin had inside his storage locker. Among Kevin's other creations is Chucky, well, he would come to create Chucky, but Kevin's amazing.
That's awesome.
And Joel asked Kevin to create a Crypt Keeper, and Kevin created the Crypt Keeper, and then Kevin found John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper.
I love his voice.
Oh,
He's
John's amazing. I'll tell you a little side. I'll digress for a second. John would tell you, where did the Crypt Keeper's laugh come from? Here's a trivia question.
Okay.
Trivia. Where did the Crypt Keeper's laugh actually come from? John Kassir was a stand-up for a while, and one of his bits, he did the Wizard of Oz in 2 minutes, and all the voices, and the Wicked Witch of the West's laugh is where the Crypt Keeper's laugh comes from.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. The Wizard of Oz is one of my favorite childhood movies, so hearing that is just awesome.
It inspired the Crypt Keeper laugh. Her laugh
awesome.
inspired the Crypt Keeper laugh.
I love that.
They're related in a creative way. There is a creative pinch ouch relationship.
I knew the laugh sounded familiar.
All right, so you have a great puppet, you have a great voice, but no one ever asked the essential question: okay, who is he? So as I sat down to write Crypt Keeper segments, I don't know how you write for a character who isn't. And so just to do my damn job, I had to create a character for him. I grew up as a dramarama. I also loved old movies. And I loved the Marx Brothers. The Crypt Keeper became my little Groucho. And having to fill the Crypt Keeper with a personality and being a writer and therefore somewhat lazy, I reached for the closest personality at hand, which is me. And so, though it looks like Kevin's puppet, it sounds like John's voice, every thought in his head, every word that came out of his mouth was me.
That's awesome.
Now, a funny thing happened during that third season, which was supposed to be the last. Because Gil and I had reinvigorated the franchise by really putting it hard there in every single episode, and we went back to the idea of making this features. So let's get feature actors. And we went hard after the biggest names we could get for every single episode. But the thing that ultimately, before the season was over, it was supposed to be the last episode, Bob Zemeckis' Yellow, which is one of the best episodes we ever did, an amazing episode. HBO had ordered a bunch more seasons.
That's crazy.
Because suddenly everyone saw value where they hadn't before. Now, yes, it was in the series itself, but it turned out, in retrospect, it was the Crypt Keeper becoming really, suddenly gaining a personality.
Right.
He suddenly became the franchise. And it is still the case. A couple of years ago, TNT wanted to do a late night horror wheel Thursdays, and M. Night Shyamalan was going to do it for them. And one of the spokes of the wheel was going to be a redo of Tales from the Crypt, and he had secured the rights to the comic books. But what he didn't realize was that, you got the rights to the comic books, but the Crypt Keeper you got is the old white guy with stringy hair. The Crypt Keeper in the TV show is a separate piece of intellectual property, of IP, owned by not Bill Gaines and his family, but by the Crypt partners, Joel Silver, Dick Donner, Bob Zemeckis, Walter Hill. And the problem is, the executive producer who walked point on Crypt was Joel Silver. Okay. And Joel Silver, here's where I might get a little sweary. So I'll just prepare yourself.
You're good. Go for it. Let it out.
Joel Silver, first of all, he is, in his time, a great Hollywood producer. Some of the great, the Lethal Weapon movies, the Matrix movies, Predator, Alien. I mean, action movies. Joel Silver Wow. Yeah, he's just one of the greatest producer of action movies of all time. And yeah, an incredibly creative man, but a problematic personality. In fact, most people would agree he might be the biggest fucking asshole on the planet. And that being the case, most people get to a point where they suddenly realize life is too short to ever work with you ever again.
Ooh.
The Crypt partners got there with Joel, and the Bill Gaines family got there with Joel. And so the Bill Gaines' family would never make a deal with Joel Silver ever again to join the Crypt Keeper and Tales from the Crypt. They are forever divorced. Where will the children go for Christmas?
Oh, man.
No idea. So that is why there can never be a reboot of Tales from the Crypt, because Tales from the Crypt, the comic book, the source, and the Crypt Keeper puppet character, separate IP owned by people that will not work together.
Is that why the show is not on HBO Max to this day?
Well, HBO never owned the show.
Okay.
They never owned it. It was always owned by the Crypt partners. HBO, very different creature than the networks.
Okay.
You know, a whole different business model. HBO's business model became streaming. HBO, because of their success, changed TV. And HBO's vision for itself and what it ultimately could be was profoundly changed by Tales from the Crypt. There's a story that took place at these cast and crew screening of the first 3 episodes. And after the first episode screened, I think it was Dick Donner's Dig This Cat, He's Real Gone, a couple of the crew were sitting in the second row, and one turns to the other, says, "Wow, that's great TV." And the other one says, "It's not TV, it's HBO." And the 2 HBO executives in the row ahead turn. They've just heard not only their new motto, but their company culture. It's not TV, it's HBO. Tales from the Crypt played a significant role in changing HBO from TV to HBO. And the subscription model suddenly became a viable way to create not just original programming, but great original programming you couldn't find on plain old TV.
Right.
All right. So we turned around Crypt in that 3rd season, and Universal Pictures took notice, and they said, "Hey, we'd like you to do 3 Crypt branded feature films. It's an anthology. Do whatever you want." And so, well, that was great validation of what we were doing. And Gil was supposed to direct the first one, but for a little while we toyed with doing Quentin Tarantino's From Dusk Till Dawn, Robert Rodriguez From Dusk Till Dawn, but ultimately Quentin and Robert did that together. There was another terrific script around that everyone said, "Let's do this one," and that was called Demon Knight.
Yes.
And terrific script. Ethan and Cy wrote a terrific script. Ernest Dickerson, a really talented, amazing director, and a phenomenal job. Billy Zane's a wonderful villain. He's wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
He's really good. Jada Pinkett and Bill Sadler are great
I was
heroes.
surprised with her casting, actually.
Well,
I was surprised to see her in that movie. I was just like, dang.
On the first day, on the very first day, we were on location, way out, doing the very last scene when she sees. It's the very last scene when she sees the guy get on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who's taken over as the villain.
Yes.
And I had not met Jada. We had not said 2 words to each other. And I go into her trailer to say, "Hi, I'm Alan Katz, I'm one of the producers of the movie." Jada has that blonde hair, and that was not what we were expecting. That was shocking. That was the person we thought we had cast was not Jada Pinkett with short blonde hair.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and she did not tell us she was going to do that. She just did that.
She just did that. That's interesting.
And so I quickly got on the horn to Joel and said, Joel, I just need you to know that a certain decision has already been made for us. Jada has done this, and, not much we could do.
Yeah.
That was, it was. But Jada was, terrific to work with. She did a great job.
She did.
The success of Demon Knight, that was a very successful movie. All right, so the second was on. Now, like I said, the Gil and I were horror guys, and we really didn't want the town to pigeonhole us as horror guys, which happens. And we saw the second Crypt feature as an opportunity to show the town that we were not one-trick ponies.
Mm-hmm.
And we had been developing a script that we had found originally called Fat Tuesday. We developed it into a thing called Dead Easy.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a taut psychological thriller about a recovered memory. It took place in the swamps outside New Orleans. It had an amazing franchise villain, this Harlequin character. Universal Pictures must have been on board because we were spending money. We were spent 6 months in New Orleans, finding locations and prepping. We were casting. We had a young unknown actress named Salma Hayek as the female lead. And 3 weeks before the start of principal photography in New Orleans, Universal Pictures called us on the phone and they said, stop, don't spend another penny, get on a plane, come home to Los Angeles. You're not making that movie. We returned to Los Angeles shell-shocked, and they put a script under our noses. They said, here, you're going to make this movie instead. Your release date hasn't changed. You still starred in shooting in 3 weeks. Get going, guys. That script was called Bordello of Blood. Now, where the hell did Bordello of Blood come from?
Yeah.
At about this time, a new studio had come into being called DreamWorks.
Oh.
And one of the pieces of DreamWorks was Steven Spielberg leaving his deal, not the lot, at Universal and setting up shop as a studio.
Mm-hmm.
And as a studio must, he began setting up talent deals. And Universal was desperately afraid of losing another big piece of talent. One of my executive producers, Bob Zemeckis. Steven was his mentor.
Wow.
Universal went to Bob. They said, Bob, we love you at Universal. What can we do to make you stay? And obviously, the deal was good enough. He stayed. I don't know any other part of the deal. I know one deal point. Universal Pictures agreed to buy for $500,000, $500,000, the first student script that Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale, the future Back to the Future writers, ever wrote when they were just film school students at USC. For $500,000. It was called Bordello of Blood.
Oh, so that's where it came from.
It was simply a deal point, a way to put some money in Bob's pocket. Stay at Universal. Look all the different ways we can feather your nest, Bob.
Uh-huh.
But Universal sat there thinking afterwards, geez, are we just going to eat $500,000 on a script? Hey, wait a minute. Bob's about to executive produce that other horror movie, that Dead Easy thing. We spent, $50,000 on the script? Screw that. We'll take it out of their budget. Guys, you're making Bordello of Blood instead. Look, it's got Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale's name on it. That's bigger than Alan Katz and Gil Adler's name, right? And so not just Gil and I, but the whole creative team at Crypt. And the whole creative team at Crypt would tell you today, as we all look back at our careers, that making Tales from the Crypt was one of the pinnacles of each and every one of our careers because of the incredible freedom we had in making that show. Of the 70 some odd episodes that I wrote and produced, that I oversaw, I got 3 notes total from HBO. 3.
Wow.
And that's how much creative freedom we had, our whole crew had, just to do our jobs. Bordello of Blood was a movie that literally nobody who made it wanted to make.
It was like a movie nobody asked for.
Literally, it was. Once you begin doing anything creative, anything really, but especially something creative for all the wrong reasons, for a reason as cynical as that,
right?
Then be prepared for every day to be stupider than the day before, which is exactly what happened. Like I said, making Crypt was Wow, that's what the whole creative experience should be, and we did that for several seasons. Demon Knight, beneficiary of that. We suddenly got to Bordello of Blood, and we did everything that we had been doing right, exactly the opposite. We well, once the studio took its eye off that ball, and then it was just a cavalcade of stupid, terrible decision making that inexplicable or just didn't care. Um,
Right.
all right, so we why did we make the movie in Vancouver? We shot Bordello of Blood in Vancouver. Was it because there was something in Vancouver that was essential to the movie? No. Uh, Joel was usually it was a seesaw battle between Joel and the IA, the union that represented our crew. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes Joel was winning the fight, and sometimes the IA was winning the fight. Well, the IA had just shut down a TV movie we had done for Fox.
Mm-hmm.
And so Joel's attitude was screw me and screw you. And so rather than, hey, our crew would have made the movie in New Orleans, now Joel's attitude was, you know what? I'm going to take the movie where your crew has no jurisdiction. And so we shot the movie in Vancouver really to screw over the IA, but we were screwing over our crew. The IA
Right.
didn't care, but our crew did. But we went to Vancouver. Now, so yeah, we went to Vancouver because that was the closest production hub that could service our needs.
Right.
But the problem was I couldn't really service our needs because this was now, yeah, Vancouver's a great production town. But this was
Mm-hmm.
30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was not anywhere near as sophisticated or complete and dynamic a production hub as it is today.
Right.
The other problem was that this was July and we're shooting a horror movie, and your stock and trade when you're shooting a horror movie is night. Stuff takes place at night in the dark. When you're that far north in July, it doesn't get dark until just about midnight.
Oh
And the
wow.
first hints of light appear in the northern sky around 4. So really by 4:30 you're done. You're shootable. A film day is 11, 12 hours
Mm-hmm.
is a film day.
Right.
We had 4.5 hours. And we had our climax planned to take place in a glass church.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But again, we didn't go to Vancouver for the right reasons. We went for the wrong reasons and then discovered how wrong those reasons were.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Uh, we Joel took over the casting of the 3 leads. He took over that from us. Uh, Part of the problem with the script that had to be rewritten in 3 weeks. The main character, now you've seen the movie, he's a small town detective.
Mm-hmm.
Now, ask yourself, how much business can a detective really do in a small town?
Very little.
Right. That's the kind of character that a film school student might create because they haven't lived in the world long enough to know.
Right.
That's pretty much a non sequitur.
Right.
That is so. How do you justify when you go to write the character? The character has to have an interior logic. Well, here's the story of my life. I was born here, then I did this, and then I became a small town detective because, well, that never happened.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a truncated character that can't exist. You can't create an interior life for them. So therefore, none of their dialogue can be redolent of a human being. It's
Right.
a generic character. But we had cast Danny Baldwin, and Danny was interested in doing it. Joel decided on Dennis Miller instead, and to this day, I couldn't tell you why. No idea why. Our audience was there for special effects makeup. Dennis Miller had a political comedy show on HBO that was not our audience. Not our audience at all. I don't know why to this day. Dennis didn't want to do the movie. And when Joel approached me, he said, all right, I'll do it for $1 million, figuring nobody in their right mind would pay Dennis Miller $1 million to be in the movie. Hey, we did the research. Dennis Miller, up to that point, had been in 3 or 4 movies, always got paid scale. So Joel committed us to $1 million for Dennis. We went to Universal. We said, look, can we get some help here? We were a $12 million movie. We had $500,000 in the budget for our lead. At Universal, we said, can we get some help, get a little breakage here? And they said, we don't know why you're casting Dennis Miller. We think it's a stupid idea. No, we're not going to help you.
Right.
And so we had to take it out of our budget. Well, all the money was in special effects makeup, the stuff our audience wanted to see.
Right.
Instead, we took it off the screen to pay an actor our audience didn't care about and who didn't want to be there. I can't tell you why that decision. Okay. I knew why. I understood why Joel wanted Erica Eleniak. We wanted Bridget Wilson, but Joel wanted, and he got Erica. But what Joel wanted was never going to happen. Erica was in a long-term relationship. And just after she said yes to being in Bordello of Blood, playing a former porn actress, she decided she didn't want to be that kind of actress playing these kind of characters in this kind of movie. After she said yes to being in the movie. So Gil, whether he was producing or because he was directing this especially, what Gil likes to do is he likes to begin production on a Thursday. That way you get in 2 days, and if you have a problem with the script, with the production element, with an actor that you need to figure something out, you have a weekend to regroup.
That's pretty smart.
And fix things. And then then the first full week, hopefully you've resolved most of your problems.
Right.
Yeah, I said Gil is a phenomenal producer. He was. So we started shooting on a Thursday. And Erica was supposed to, and we started shooting stuff in the bar, in the bar scene, just our Canadian actors. And Erica was supposed to fly on Saturday to be in wardrobe on Monday to work on Tuesday. And on Saturday, her manager calls me and says she's not getting on an airplane till you rewrite the script. She doesn't want to be that kind of actress in this kind of movie anymore. Unless you do it, she's not getting on an airplane. Well, okay, now you've got me by the short and curlies. And so we negotiated down to where she's a formerly heavyweight porn actress. Now, why that's why that works for her versus the original, God, I don't know. But it got her on the airplane. But then we had to rewrite the script all weekend because that ripples all the way throughout. And how the Rafe character, it's just all right. She never wants to be there. She's always convinced that we're getting shots of her that we're not getting. Madness. All right. Angie. Now, Angie's a whole other thing. Now, we wanted Robin Givens to play the villain. The villain is the most important character in the movie, Billy Zane. Phenomenal. It's a great piece of casting. Now, here's the thing. I've cast a lot of actors over the course of my career, and I can tell you flat out, I never wanted any of the actors I ever cast to act. In fact, acting is the last thing I wanted any of them to do. Acting in a theater is important because the people in the last row have to see and hear you, and so you have to act. But the camera, it's right in your face.
Right.
It sees and it hears everything. And so if you act, it will see you acting. What I need actors to do is to be as honestly themselves, especially, hey, we'll give them another name, put some words in their mouths, but at key moments, like a light switch. I don't need them to act those emotions. I need them to be them completely. And that's what makes great film acting. It's camera acting for the camera. It's the ability to be in the moment with absolute honesty. All right. Billy Zane is a great villain in Titanic and in Demon Knight. Because there's some villainous inside of Billy. He's egomaniacal. He's a little out of control, but that's part of where his art is. And what he is able to do is to tap into this dark part of his nature. And so he's not acting, he's being. And that's why he's so good. He's able to tap he's able to tap into that part of him, and he is really chilling. Even when he's being kind kind of funny. There's just something cold, and don't turn your back on this guy.
Yeah,
Don't trust him for 2 seconds.
Yeah, I absolutely
Well,
enjoyed that performance.
the problem with Angie is that she is a wonderful person, top to bottom, inside and out. She is 100% a wonderful human being. There's not a villainous anything inside of her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason she got cast is at the time that we were about to go make our movie in Vancouver, Joel, our executive producer, and Dick Dunn, our other executive producer, were making another movie in Seattle called Assassins. And Assassins starred Antonio Banderas and Sylvester Stallone.
Oh,
And
wow.
at the time, Stallone was engaged to Angie Everhart.
Huh.
And one day on the set, Stallone approached Joel and he said, hey, Joel, you can make a movie in Vancouver. Why don't you put my girlfriend Angie in the movie? That way we can visit each other across the border. And Joel, instead of being a responsible executive producer and saying, that's a great idea, Sly, but let me check with the guys to make sure it works for them, he said, that's a great idea, Sly. Period. And he committed us to hiring an actress in our movie just to keep an actor in that other movie happy. It wasn't because Joel saw something and said, you're right, genius.
Mm-hmm.
Angie had appeared in a couple of other movies. This is not a reflection on Angie. It has nothing to do with Angie. Angie's a lovely human being. These are people manipulating Angie for their own purposes.
Right.
Now, it turned out Angie's problem, as I said, is that she is a lovely human being, and she had no training as an actor to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Even if she had training as an actor, she would have had to act villainous in order to be in the movie instead of tapping into something villainous. And that's Angie's problem. She's acting. She's acting. She can't be. And so, I don't know, as I watch her, all I can see is her acting.
Mm-hmm.
And she's acting her heart out, but that's the problem, and it's not her fault, it's ours. Because she was hired for entirely cynical reasons. She was not hired because, it's funny, at the time, Joel had made a movie called Fair Game with Cindy Crawford. It hadn't been released yet, but Joel was quite convinced that he was on to the next big trend in action and horror movies. Supermodels as the star. While we were shooting, Fair Game opened and bombed. There goes that theory.
Yep, there goes that.
But it wasn't so much the theory as really just trying to keep Stallone happy. Now, it turned out that Stallone had an ulterior motive. That he intended to break up with Angie, and we were the consolation prize. And that is exactly what happened. 2/3 of the way through the movie, he broke up with her via text, I think, a phone call or something. And it was in the middle of our shooting day. And he said during the phone call, hey, I got you a movie, didn't I?
Oh my gosh. That upsets me.
Oh, hey, let me tell you, it upset her and it upset everybody.
Oh, I'm sure it did. I don't blame her.
What made it worse was that everyone on our set knew that Stallone was cheating on her on his set. How did we know? Because our production office communicated with their production office. Originally, as we started, we had to arrange for Angie to go visit him on his set.
Wow.
And so we were coordinating. And so our two production offices talked all the time. And so after about 2 visits, they called our production office and they asked, is there any way to hold Angie for the weekend? What? So not let her travel? What, to keep her here and do her homework? What are you talking about? She's a grown human being. What are you talking about?
She's an adult. What are you talking about?
But we were hearing stories. And there's one story that I had never heard before in my life. Stallone has never denied this story. The question has only ever been, on what set did this take place? And I would tell you, this story comes from the set of Assassins, because I heard this story from my production office, who heard it from their production office.
Okay.
It's going to get a little R-rated for the moment.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
so
prepared.
it's worth it. Stallone finishes a scene and heads back to his trailer, unaware of the fact that his wireless lavalier mic is still broadcasting to the sound card. There is a young woman waiting in his trailer, and she proceeds to fillet him. And apparently Sly is rather particular about how he likes his fellatio. And so people are now gathering around the sound cart as they hear Stallone going, yeah, that's right, stroke the shaft, cup the balls. Yeah, cup the balls, stroke the shaft. The next day, he shows up on the set, and the entire crew are wearing T-shirts that say, stroke the shaft, cup the balls.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah. Like I said, he's never denied it. He's never denied it. It's a question of what set. I'm telling you what set it came from.
Oh my
All right.
goodness.
Making Bordello was a fiasco. It was my own personal Waterloo. We could have made our release date, but by the time we got to that following Halloween, when we should have been out, Universal held us, and they held us until the following August. They dropped us in the doldrums where you send movies to die.
Mm-hmm.
By the time the movie opened, we had done the last season of Tales from the Crypt, which we shot in London, and we came back to Los Angeles, and I basically got fired. I got fired off.
Really?
We were negotiating after the 7th season of Crypt. We were going to do a science fiction show based on the EC comics, and we were negotiating. I was negotiating with the Crypt partners, and they said, we don't want to negotiate with you anymore. And so,
just out of the blue?
Yeah, it was great. It was quite shocking. It was shocking to me. Hey, they were negotiating with me. I've been doing it. I ran a successful show for you for 7 years. Well, why are you not negotiating with me? I co-created the Crypt Keeper. I think I know a thing or two about how to create a franchise character,
Right.
but they fired me. And Gil, who I thought was going to walk with me, he stayed, and that was the end of our friendship and our relationship. It was a rather acrimonious split, to say the least. And Gil and I didn't talk for 25 years.
Really? Wow.
And I kind of getting that. My whole life kind of went in a different direction at that point. And I had 2 really good seasons on The Outer Limits as a co-executive producer.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed my time back up in Vancouver, although when I went back to Vancouver to make Outer Limits, people still remembered Bordello.
Oh, no.
And there were people on the crew who when they saw that I was a co-executive producer, I had to assure them that I was not the asshole who it was still people talked about, because the fact of the matter was I was a terrible producer on that movie. Terrible. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be making that movie. I was getting paid, not a ton, but I was getting paid to produce the movie.
Right.
I should have done a better job than I did.
Mm-hmm.
I started a 2-decade-long descent into a deepening depression and a writer's block I didn't even know I was in. Now, on the plus side, I had a lot of time. I raised my kids, but I suddenly I couldn't get arrested in showbiz. I suddenly became persona non grata, and the darkness was rather overpowering. And 3 days before Christmas 2016, I came within literal inches of killing myself. I knew I was in a terrible place. I knew I needed medication, something just to help me in some way. But my dad was a surgeon, and I grew up in the medical culture.
Okay.
And so I knew that most likely, I knew my GP had no background in these kind of medications. The last pharmaceutical rep who walked through the office probably said, "Hey, you got any depressed patients? We make this product. Why don't you give it to them, see if it helps them?" Well, this is a very particular kind of medication. It's a lab experiment, even under the best of circumstances. And I did not want to be a lab experiment where none of the boxes were checked off. I didn't want to be a blind lab experiment. And so I'd done my research. And so after this thing nearly happened, I drove right to my GP. I said what I had done, and I said my story. I said, "Look, here's what I want to do. I want to, please write me a prescription for this medication." And he whipped out his smartphone. He said, "Okay, that makes sense." And he wrote the prescription. I picked it up, went home, told my family what I was going to do, took the first dose, and then I got super lucky. Within 36 hours, I leveled. I felt the medication put the darkness not in a box, but in a cage. I know the darkness is there, and I can see it. It can see me, but it can't get at me through. You can reach at me through the bars, but it can't get at
consume you. Yeah.
And once my darkness lost its grip on me, I could confront the fact that I've been keeping a secret from myself for 45 years. About the fact that when I was 14, on 2 occasions, the religious director at the synagogue where my family belonged outside of Baltimore sexually molested me twice.
Wow.
And the first time is bad, but it's the second time that set the hook. Because the second time happened because I didn't say anything about the first time.
Right.
And it's in the middle of the second time when I know I said to myself, "This is your fault. You did this to you." And that's not true. It was not my 14. It was not this 14-year-old's fault that an adult was treating me like a sex toy.
Right.
It was not my fault. But this is how it happens. And that became the template. The self-loathing starts right there. And when you get to adulthood, life's really a lot more complicated. I blamed myself for everything, even things I had no business blaming myself for. Well, that doesn't solve anybody's problem. It doesn't. That's counterproductive, really. But finally confronting this thing that had happened, the secret I was keeping from myself, is absolutely true what they say about the truth setting you free. And wow, it was on a Friday night, about 1:00 in the morning. I got up, and I went into the bathroom. I didn't want to disturb my wife, and I lay down on the bathroom floor and wept for 3 hours for the 14-year-old me that finally wasn't being held responsible for what had happened to him. Well, if you can't tell your own story to yourself, can you really tell anyone else's story? No, of course you can't. But now that I could suddenly tell my story to me with absolute honesty, well, suddenly I went from being, I think, a really good writer into being a storyteller. And that became ultimately my purpose. Now, during the pandemic, a Tales from the Group fan group, there were 3 dads from various parts of the country. They've started a podcast called Dads from the Crypt. They reviewed all the episodes of Tales from the Crypt, and they give parenting advice.
Interesting.
And I thought that was a funny idea for a podcast. And one of the dads, Jason Stein, reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're going to be reviewing one of the episodes you wrote. You want to sit in with us?" And I said, "That sounds like fun. Okay, sure, I'll do it."
Yeah.
And I sat in. I gave my parenting advice. And and it was great fun. A couple of weeks later, Jason reached out to me again. He said, "Hey, we're going to be reviewing Bordello of Blood. You want to sit in again?" And I said, "Jason, the story of the making of Bordello of Blood is not a half-hour conversation with you. It's a podcast unto itself." And that was the impetus for the first season of my first podcast, the How Not to Make a Movie podcast. First season was subtitled The Making of Bordello of Blood. What I wanted to do was tell that whole story, start to finish, with balls to the wall honesty. Absolute honesty. In order to do it, I knew I wanted to talk to I didn't want to talk to the actors. They had no idea about anything. I wanted to talk to the creative team, especially the Crypt creative team, for whom this was the antithesis. This was, what happened to us? How did this happen?
Right.
But the one person I especially was going to have to get in touch with was Gil. Creative relationships are like marriages, and when they go rotten, man, it's bad.
Yep.
We hadn't talked in 25 years, but I reached out to Gil. I said, here's what I want to do. I want to tell the story of the making of that movie. And part of the story is the breakup afterwards and everything that happened. You know, Gil went on to have a fantastic career, which he deserved. Gil produced all of Warner Brothers' big tentpole movies for a bunch of years. Superman Returns, Constantine, Valkyrie. Gil produced huge, and you know, because he's a great producer. You want to give the movie's going to cost $300 million, give it to Gil. He will make sure every penny is spent responsibly. So yeah, he should be producing and be responsible for these big movies. That's yeah, he's a really talented guy. That's what he should be doing. But I said, you know, we're going to talk about the breakup and everything that happened afterwards. And I said, we're not going to talk about it beforehand. We're going to do it live on mic. And he was rather trepidatious, but he agreed. And Entertainment Weekly called that first season, season 1 of the How Not to Make a Movie podcast, the best film podcast of 2022.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, that felt good.
Oh, I bet it did.
The reason that Clark Collis, who very kindly wrote those words, said it was after he listened to the podcast, the honesty, especially between Gil and I, he thought, is this bullshit? And so he wanted to interview us to see whether we were for real. And yeah, we were for real.
Oh yeah.
My mission was to tell the story with utter honesty. And I found as I was telling the story in this medium, in this podcasting medium, I began to fall head over heels in love with this storytelling medium and using it for storytelling. As I was doing a second season and a third season, where the additional seasons, it became conversations with everyone I know in the business, just talking about craft and especially what happens when occasionally your craft turns to crap. You know, but a friend from school approached me but he wanted to do a screenplay, or he wanted to do a movie or a TV series, probably a TV series. And he told me the idea. I said, no. Here's the thing. To take an idea from my head and turn it into, okay, let's say a TV series. To write the script, a couple of years, really. To get the script right, a couple of years, if you're lucky. The average is 10. 10 for a project, 10. All right, couple of years. All right, now you got the script done. All right, let's say you got it done in 3 years. You're really good. All right, you want to take it into a place to sell it as a TV series? Well, you wrote season 1, episode 1. What happened episode 2 and 3 and 4 and season 2? Who are all these characters? What are all their backstories? You got to write what's called a Bible. That's 50 to 60 pages of densely single line type where really you're describing the entire universe. Well, that doesn't write itself overnight. Figure on another year and change to get that right. All right, now you got it ready for the marketplace. You got to get it past. You got to get these executives, and it's a handful of executives who really you're talking about maybe 5, 6, 7 at the most. To get any one of these people to read your script, you have to create a pitch deck. So spend some more time converting it, stewing it down into a comic book version of a couple of words, but mostly images, to induce them to read. Just to read. And okay, let's say they really go, well, I guess I kind of see how this could work. We'll develop this. All right, you might make a couple bucks, maybe, but now you're just at the top of the meat grinder. You're going to go through the development process. And to get that to the end, the sausage at the end, there are thousands of assholes standing in your way. And at any point, any one of those assholes can kill the project dead just because they're an asshole.
Right.
Take the same idea and turn it into a podcast. There's only one asshole standing in my way, and it's me.
Right.
And so long as I'm willing to do the work, okay, I got to find the audience or help the audience find the content, but I'll take that challenge. All right, I'll go there. It's about content. I'll do that. My friend's idea, no, as a TV series, no, it would be compromised completely. And this became my first narrative story podcast.
Okay.
It's called The Donor, a DNA Horror Story. Absolutely true story. My friend Hal worked his way through medical school in the 90s as in the late 80s, early 90s as an anonymous sperm donor. Jump forward 27 years. He joined 23andMe, curious about his health genes. Never occurred to him the ramifications of adding his DNA to a growing DNA database. He lost his donor anonymity. Suddenly, 7 total strangers found Daddy. Except 6 of them had no idea whatsoever their actual biological father was Hal, a sperm donor. The 7th, now these are 26, 25, 26-year-old people suddenly discovering they're not who they thought they were. And not only that, but they've been lied to.
Right.
They've been lied to about this fact that they're not who they thought they were. So it's earth-shattering for many of them. This is part of what the technology, it's not, this technology is great, but there's a downside. All right. The 7th, one of the daughters brought a thing called genetic sexual attraction to the table. The adoption community has known about genetic sexual attraction. The woman, for quite a while, the woman who coined the term, her name is Barbara Gagne, and she gave up a son for adoption when she was 16. She met him 25 years later, 25-year-old adult, and she fell head over heels in love with him and was quite ready to have sex with him. And he's not quite ready to have sex with her. And there is research that says that, yes, people who are genetically related to each other but who are not raised together, the taboo that we have about incest, it's not so much the genetic connection. There is research that says it's when we grow up in proximity, those first couple of years, there is a negative imprinting upon us that makes the idea of having a sexual relationship with this person, that's what makes it unappealing. There's this imprinting. But it's not unusual for, as I said, people in the adoption community, siblings especially, no connection to each other, and then they meet each other as adults, and they meet someone because they feel like they've known their whole life. They complete each other's sentences. They laugh at the exact same things. And if there's any kind of a spark between them, it's a feeling like as Barbara Gagne described, a feeling like she never had in her entire life ever before. Well, Hal had been married to a woman for 20 years who had brought a son from a previous marriage into the relationship, and he had raised this son as his own, adopted him later as an adult. But he had never raised a biological child of his own. And so the thought of having these 7 biological kids, he wasn't going to father them. They had fathers, but he was quite open to being fatherly toward them. And he had money. And because they were blood, he was open to cutting them in on the inheritance, and it was quite considerable.
Yeah.
But when this one daughter brought genetic sexual attraction to the it was like a hand grenade into the circus tent. The relationship that occurs between the donor-conceived siblings, and some of them refer to each other as dibblings. The relationship between the dibblings is super intense because they're all discovering, hey, I got a sister or a brother I never knew I had a half-brother, half-sister. But they discover, yeah. And for a lot of them, this is a far more intense relationship by far than with a donor, with the sperm donor. And so when this one daughter tossed genetic sexual attraction onto the table, it ended up setting all the all the Dibblings against Hal.
Hmm.
And so this dream of this really great, cool, interesting family turned rather nightmarish. And so that was the story that Hal wanted to tell. And I said, no, you got to do this as a podcast instead.
Hmm.
And that's The Donor, a DNA horror story. That was my first. And I found while I was doing it that I had become the thing I always wanted to be when I grew up, which is a podcaster.
Mm-hmm.
I love telling stories in this medium. It's
a good medium for it.
Well, people take our voices and our stories, and they listen with earphones or earbuds, or they listen. I mean, a car is really just a giant sound pod, and they take our voices and our stories and they put them between their ears into their most intimate space inside their heads. I love the honor of that, but there's a responsibility too to the audience to respect them,
right,
and to respect the trust that they have placed in us. While I was researching The Donor, doing my research on the donor conceived community, one of the donor conceived community who very graciously agreed to give me background was a woman named Donna Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And Donna learned at 40 that she was donor conceived, which was earth shattering to her. But the rest of Donna's story it's even more amazing. And Donna said, yeah, I know, I've been trying to turn it. I said, Donna, you're a podcast unto yourself. She said, yeah, I'm trying to turn it into a podcast. Even a great story, and Donna's story is a great story. Excuse me. Even a great story has to be told the right way to become a great story. It's really easy to turn a great story into easy to kill stories. Donna grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, outside of Philadelphia in a lower tier crime family. The Halls weren't the Corleones, but they made national headlines just the same. Donna's mom, Phyllis, maybe the worst mom ever. She spent 6 months in prison for child endangerment.
Wow.
Donna's stepdad, John Hall, a true criminal mastermind. He was the Philadelphia Police Department's favorite snitch. He put more than 25 people behind bars based on bullshit confessions that John Hall created to mitigate his own considerable legal jeopardy.
Mm-hmm.
Among the people that he put away were his own stepson, Herb Hack, who spent 18 months in prison awaiting trial for a murder he did not commit. John Hall put a man named Walter Ogrod on death row in Pennsylvania for 24 years, plus the five he served awaiting the trial. Walter spent 29 years of his life in prison for a murder he did not commit.
That's crazy.
When Pennsylvania released him, they gave him $9.1 million to try and make up for their terrible mistake, their corruption. Just recently, this past week, the final man serving time based on a bullshit John Hall confession, a man named David Dixon was serving a life sentence, was released by Pennsylvania, or is about to be released by Pennsylvania. The last person serving time, although John Hall died 20 years ago. I mean, truly. Well, Donna describes what it was like growing up in a family where one or more of the adults was committing one kind of crime or another every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And Donna is a wonderful storyteller. She is vivacious, and there's not an ounce of self-pity. Her story isn't just true crime like you've never heard it. Sorry. It is her journey toward safety, but most importantly, empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called The Hall Closet. The first season was 8 episodes. It's wherever you find your favorite podcasts. While I was making that podcast, I committed myself whole hog to the podcast business. My little company, Costard and Touchstone, we just started releasing our 5th podcast, which I'll tell you about shortly, because I'm really excited about this one and the other one as well.
Okay.
Um, I, yeah, podcasting is it. The the other thing about podcasting that's key. We podcasters, we own our content,
Mm-hmm.
100%. When one of the luxuries of making Hal's story or Donna's story and doing it ourselves is that we do it, we tell the story our way. And I'm going to say it costs nothing. That's not true when we know this.
Mm-hmm.
If we were being paid for our time while we create this content, yes, we should be compensated for this. Everyone involved in making podcasts in the world the way that I want to make it, yeah, we'd all be getting compensated fairly for our time creating this content
Mm-hmm.
for other people.
Right.
Uh, the ideas that I gravitate towards a lot of my podcasts, yeah, they would make great movies and TV series, and I know this. In the old days, I would have gone cap in hand, and part of the whole process, writing the script and then crafting a pitch to get them to let you in the door to try to sell your movie or TV series.
Right.
You're trying to convey to the person in the executive suite what your IP is, what your intellectual is, what's the franchise, what's the IP. And that's really the whole point of the song and dance, to convey what the IP is. Well, if we do it as a podcast, it's there in the podcast. We've put the IP right there on the table where everyone can hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And we own it. And all right, it's about create great content that people might want to turn into other forms of entertainment. But okay, let's say we've accomplished that. In the old days, rather than take it to them to sell it to them, you're going to go, oh, please try to get into your tiny little head what my IP is. They're going to come to me now to buy it because they know what the IP is. And they're going to say to me, hey, the donor or just the photographer or any other podcast I'm working, that'd make a great movie. That'd make a great TV series. And I'm going to go, hey, you're right. It would make a great TV series. What of it? And they're going to go, oh, here, I got a check. And I'm going to look at the check and I'm going to go, well, that's pretty, but you're going to have to add some zeros and move the decimal point over because you have competition. Get out of here. Really and truly, I believe podcasting has the potential, the very real potential, to flip the power dynamic from the money to the creatives, because we can create our content as we in toto for a price they can't match. And once we've created the IP, hey, these are risk averse people in executive suites, and it's a lot of money to take a flying leap at, well, we kind of like the script, we kind of, here's what we thought the whole thing would be. They don't have to take that leap with us. We've told the whole story. Oh, you'll have to visualize it, but you know what the story is.
Yeah.
Once you know what the story is, yeah, the visualization part, that's icing.
Yeah.
Icing.
That just comes naturally.
It's icing on the story's cake. The
Right.
story is the cake. And podcasting is about cake. We are the cake. Just a photographer, and this is the last one. There's another one called Sage Wellness Within. I do a terrific podcast. It's about Chinese medicine. Dr. Andrea Thorpe.
Ooh, interesting.
She works especially with women and women's health issues, Chinese medicine, and the way that Chinese medicine approaches us, the way that it sees us, hears us, the way that it sees and hears women and their particular health issues. Yeah, Andrea is incredibly good at taking this complex thing and making it, oh, wow, I get that.
Yeah.
That's Sage Wellness Within podcast. That's out there wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And the one that we just started dropping, it's called Just the Photographer with David Swanson.
Okay.
David is a Pulitzer Prize-winning photojournalist. He took one of the iconic 9/11 photos of the first responders down in the pit. He has been to war zones from Bosnia to Afghanistan to Iraq, natural disasters, Hurricane Katrina, the earthquakes in Haiti, the wildfires in Los Angeles. He's been to the Oscars. He's covered the red carpet events. David is, for 40 years, he's been a photojournalist. Just a photographer is, though his incredible photos, his news photos can tell you what it looked like standing in those dangerous places.
Mm-hmm.
They can't tell you what it felt like. And
Right.
that's what the podcast does. It's all the stories his photos could not tell you. And that's Just the Photographer, and we just started dropping episodes of that. I am super, super proud of this podcast.
It sounds awesome. I'll have to give it a listen.
I cannot recommend it highly enough. It really is. David is. Oh my God! Oh my God! These stories. What's remarkable, you cannot go to a war zone and not be changed by it.
Uh-huh.
And it's really how his work has affected him, but he can't do anything else. He wouldn't dream of doing anything else. It's this strange moth to the flame
Right.
kind of dynamic. But that's what I love about podcasting in this medium, is that we can get so granular.
Mm-hmm.
And we can take our time to tell a story, just as you and I have been doing this past, holy cow, how long has it been now?
It's been an hour and 15.
15. And yet, we're just sitting here just cruising.
That's what this podcast is. It's just something that's chill. You're just having a conversation. That's just what this is.
Exactly so. But that's the wonderful thing about this medium. That's why you are a wonderful podcaster, Bailey.
Thank you.
You understand. That is the nature of this beast. It's who you are. That's the secret sauce right there. Who you are, and just be you.
Exactly.
And you got to understand that the microphone, you got to stop seeing it as a piece of equipment and seeing it instead as an extension of your vocal cords.
That's a good point, actually. I've never thought about it that way.
Really and truly, I think of my microphone as let's call it the ear of an intimate. And I would never shout at it or shout into it. You approach it lovingly and with respect. And if you can whisper into it, but if you have to shout, you've got to back off a little bit.
Right.
Because you'll blow its brains out.
Yeah, which we do quite often.
Anyway, so my little company, Costard and Touchstone, we are committed. Our mission is to make the world a better place through storytelling. And the reason it's called Costard and Touchstone, in my very brief acting career, I was in 2 Shakespearean plays. I played the part of Costard in Love's Labour's Lost, and I played the part of Touchstone in As You Like It.
Okay.
Both Costard and Touchstone are Shakespearean wise fools who speak truth to power.
Okay.
And that's what my little company is. I'd like to think of us as a wise fool speaking truth to power.
I love that.
So we are at costardandtouchstone.com, https:// Costard, costardandtouchstone.com. And there you can find all the podcasts that we have out in the world right now. You can link to them there. You can listen to them there or link to them. And also some coming attractions to the dozen other podcasts that we have in various stages of it's almost time. And I got a dozen more podcasts on the way.
Awesome. I can't wait to see them and hear them. I'm speechless right now. That's awesome. That's awesome, man.
Is this the part where we get to the trivia questions?
Yes. I also have
okay.
some, I have another thing that we actually started last episode called Popcorn Roulette. So it's like one-off sort of thing. So it's like quick answers.
Go.
So for your first one, what is your favorite Crypt Keeper pun? because I noticed that he says a lot of puns, and I love that because I do too. But my friend hates it.
My favorite, the one where, and again, I'll digress for a moment. Writing the Crypt Keeper segments was the hardest thing I've ever had to do creatively in my entire life. It was
Really?
always murder. It was like pulling organs out through your nose. We would produce Crypt Keeper segments in batches because the Crypt Keeper was 6 puppeteers working in concert.
Yeah, I noticed that.
One was the right arm, one was the left arm. There were 3 devoted to his animatronic face, working the servos, and one was responsible for the lateral movement and side to side.
Wow.
I would write 3 or 4 at a time, and then I would go record what was called the beep track with John. We do a little revision together, and then on the day of production, we would do, over the course of 2 or 3 days, we'd shoot 3 or 4 segments, and because we'd have to recreate the Crypt Keeper set, put it back together again.
Mm-hmm.
And because we had the Crypt Keeper doing all kinds of complicated things, there was a lot of choreography that the director and the puppeteers had to work out. But okay, we'd work all that.
Mm-hmm.
And the director would yell, action, and start to roll. And the Crypt Keeper would sit up, beep, 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 John's voice, and the Crypt Keeper would come to life. And though... And that was a puppet.
That just sounds awesome.
You forget. And he would do his thing, and then he'd finish. The director would yell cut, and the Crypt Keeper would sing. And something inside you would go, wait, what? Yeah, that's right. He's not real.
Like, wait a minute, he's not real?
So writing those lines was, each and every one of them, even the ones that sucked, were painful to produce. So the ones that the one where he is playing golf, which you might not have come to yet.
I might not have.
His caddy is named Juan, and he talks about putting a hole in Juan.
I've seen that one. Yeah, I watched that one today. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yep.
So that one, I thought that one's pretty hilarious.
That one was pretty funny.
Hole in Juan.
So is there a dream horror director you'd love to collaborate with at some point?
I was really lucky. I got to work with people like Tobe Hooper.
Mm-hmm.
Tobe directed an episode of Crypt. Tobe on another project as well. I got to work with Billy Friedkin, who directed The Exorcist. Billy directed an episode of Tales from the Crypt on a dead man's chest.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Coming your way. I worked with Dick Donner. He was my boss, Richard Donner. So I got to work with some of the biggest horror directors of them all. I think I did it already. I think I've already worked with them.
That's awesome, though. So is there one horror film that has ever scared you?
Now, keep in mind, I'm not a horror person.
Right.
But my favorite, the movie that is in the horror genre, is one of my favorite movies of all, is Nicholas Roeg's Don't Look Now.
Interesting. I've never heard that one.
Oh, it's Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie. It's based on a short story by Daphne du Maurier. It takes place in Venice.
Okay.
Donald Sutherland plays an art restorer who goes to Venice to restore a cathedral. But before he goes, he and his wife, Julie Christie, they have a son and a daughter. They live on this nice farm in England. The daughter, who's wearing this red mac, while playing out on their property, drowns in the little pond they have.
Mm-hmm.
We pick up the couple. They're now in Venice, still grieving for their daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Their son is at school in England, and they're out to dinner one night, and there's two elderly English ladies at the next table, and one of them is blind, and it turns out she has second sight. She's psychic.
Okay.
In the bathroom, the two sisters confront Julie Christie, and the the blind psychic one says to Julie Christie, "I saw your daughter, and she wants you to know she's all right."
Aw. That sounds reassuring.
Well, it's kind of, how do you know about my daughter?
Right.
What? And so she goes and she tells Donald Sutherland, and he becomes utterly convinced this is nonsense, this rubbish. I won't tell you anything else. It is the ending. There's this. It's about water, and the color red, and it takes place in Venice, which is all about water. It
is,
and it is. It's creepy. Every single frame is creepy, but the ending is shocking. It's thumping.
I'll have to find it.
It is. It is such a masterful piece of filmmaking artistry. It is wonderfully cut. It also features one of the best sex scenes ever shot in a mainstream movie between two mainstream actors.
Interesting.
And it's really, really intimate. And there was always talk that they were really intimate there on set.
Mm-hmm.
What's really strange about how good when I say it's a good sex scene, you feel the emotional connection between these two characters.
That's what I think you would always want in an intimate moment like that.
But you really often don't. What's really the most shocking thing about this sex scene, and it's almost rare, almost exceptional among sex scenes in movies across the entirety of film history.
Mm-hmm.
It's between a married couple.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
You don't often see that.
You really
in
don't.
Movies.
Mm-mm. Especially not these days.
Yeah. So, Don't Look Now, my favorite horror movie. Yeah, Don't Look Now. Yeah.
I'll have to look up that one.
These were supposed to be short answers, weren't they?
It's fine.
There goes that theory.
That's fine. I don't even think our answers were very short in the last episode either, so it's fine. So what was your favorite kill or twist you've ever written?
In Two for the Show. It's about Vince Spano plays a cop. Oh God, who played David Paymer? Plays the husband, and in the very first scene, his wife was played by Tracy Lords. He kills her. She says she's leaving him for someone else, and he kills her. And then he tries to dispose of the body, and a cop seems to be aware that something weird's going on, and this cop keeps following him. And David Paymer gets this trunk onto a train. And he gets onto the train, and the cop is on the train. And the cop and so it's, how does the cop know? How does the cop know? It turns out, I'll give away the ending. Well, the twist is that the Tracy Lords, the wife, was leaving him for another woman, not another man, leaving him for the cop's wife.
Oh wow, that is a twist.
So the cop was going to get David Paymer to kill both, in essence, dispose of both their wives.
Oh my gosh!
So it was coming up with that plot twist that, well, why does it have to be an affair with a man? Can't she be having an affair with a woman? Can't she leave him
twist.
for
like
a woman?
That.
I mean,
yeah.
why do we go right to so? And because the audience isn't looking for that twist, the fact that it's a woman, it's not what he's expecting to see in the trunk when they open it is a different woman.
Right.
It's like, that's not my wife. What's so? It's anyway. So
that's crazy. I like that. But anyway, we can go ahead and get to your trivia questions, if you would like to.
I don't really have any.
Oh, you don't have any? That's okay.
The trivia question I was going to ask was some of the trivia that I gave was, okay, what's the actual origin of the Crypt Keeper's laugh?
The Wicked Witch of the West.
There you go. See, I gave the trivia away in the episode.
You're lucky I remembered, because my brain's starting to shut down a little bit, but...
Hey, it's a lot later where you are than where I am.
Is.
I know it's past my bedtime where you are.
Yeah, it's like 9:30, a little after 9:30. But yeah. So of all of your work on Crypt, what's one moment that still gives you chills or makes you grin?
You know, it was such a wonderful experience getting to work. Like I said, I was a movie buff.
Right.
I loved movies, and I got to work with people whose movies I loved.
Mm-hmm.
Work with them. Like, I loved Clockwork Orange. And I hired Malcolm McDowell, the star of Clockwork Orange. I put him in my little TV show as the Reluctant Vampire.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of that first season, Yellow. That was, I think, one of the most gratifying moments. When Yellow was supposed to be the end of the third season, supposed to be the last episode of Crypt, it turned out not to be the end of Crypt. But what Bob Zemeckis wanted to do with Yellow was he wanted to pay homage to one of his favorite movies when he was a film student, which was Stanley Kubrick's Paths of Glory.
Mm-hmm.
It's a World War I movie that starred Kirk Douglas. And so what Bob Z wanted to do, he wanted to do this episode, Yellow, which took place during World War I. He wanted to he wanted to pay homage to Paths of Glory, and he wanted Kirk Douglas to be in the episode.
Huh.
They had written a script before I got there, and it had been written by two very expensive feature writers, but it sucked. Because the characters were one-dimensional.
Oh, no.
So Bob turned to me, since it was my job to rewrite everything and get it ready. So he said, can you get us Kirk? So I rewrote the script, and I got us Kirk.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Bob, working for Bob, everything I know about the collaborative process, I learned at that man's feet. Bob is the most wonderful collaborator because he understands that really the goal is to get the very best out of everybody, so that the sum is greater. The sum is greater than the total of its parts. That really is the goal in the creative process. We made this. We made this together. It is a collaborative process, and when you do things collaboratively and it works, it's creating magic together. Bob was very generous when I got him Kirk, and he sent a lovely basket of stuff and a lovely note that I still have. It was really, really generous, a very generous thing of him to do. And like I said, whenever working for Bob, when he did his last episode that he directed, which you haven't got to yet, it's a couple seasons on, it's called You Murderer.
Okay.
And it's quintessential what it's like working with Bob. Because it was going to be Bob, it was going to be the last episode of the season. Normally the way that we worked, it was you did everyone got the same thing. 5 days of prep and 5 days of shooting. That was it. Except for Bob, who, he got a couple extra days on Yellow, but what he wanted to do with his last episode, he got a couple extra days. I went up to Bob's place outside at Santa Barbara. We had lunch, and after lunch, he pushed aside the dishes. He said, "All right, guys, for the episode, I want to do a subjective camera show from the point of view of a dead guy." Wait, what? So a single camera show, so it's basically just one shot from the point of view of a dead guy. That's the whole episode. Oh, and I want the dead guy to be played by Humphrey Bogart. What? All right, how are we going to do this? What? And Bob will throw down the most ridiculous challenges to you and then say, how are we going to do this? Not how are you going to do this? How are we going to do this?
Right.
And then the spitballing begins. And it's very much, I call it an improvisational process. And if you understand how improv works, it's yes and. Hey, do you like my hat? Yes, and I love the tropical birds. What are their names? Well, that's Doris, that's Joe. It's you add information.
Right.
Yes, and
Yeah.
the word no kills the creative process dead.
It does. Mm-hmm.
It does. So even if you want to take it a different direction, you don't say no. You're going to have to yes and your way
Mm-hmm.
toward where you want to do. You're still going to have to add information to get it where you want to go. No is out of the question. Is out of the question. Working, we ultimately figured out how to do this, and part of the challenge with Bob was every time we passed a reflective surface, we were going to see Bogart, and he was going to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were going to grab 18. At the end of the day, it was 18 instances of it, 18 film clips of Bogart, and we were going to have to figure out a way to get in to that little reflective. Oh, there we are, and then out of it into the story. So it was a constant puzzle to figure the whole thing out. But the creative challenge is always amazing. In every Zemeckis movie, there's at least a moment or two, sometimes more, but at least a moment, a scene, a shot that, if you know anything about movie making, it's impossible. That is an impossible shot. Okay, how did you get that? An example. In Castaway, Tom Hanks is on he's on a deserted island, just him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a mountain in the middle of the island. And finally he decides to climb the mountain. Remember the scene?
Mm-hmm.
And he climbs the mountain, and the camera's on his shoulder. Tom's in the shot the whole time. It's right on his right shoulder. And he climbs to the top. And when he gets to the summit, it's really small. There's just enough room for him. And he gets up top. He's still in the shot. And he does like a 360. Sees that there are reefs surrounding the whole island.
Mm-hmm.
He's at 360 with just him in the shot the whole time. Okay, where's the crew? How's the camera sitting there? Then it was too big. They didn't have little GoPros back then.
Right.
Big piece of equipment. Lights, whiteboards. Where's everybody? Sound. Where's everybody standing? It is, as you watch it. If you understand anything about filmmaking. And again, the audience has no idea. That's impossible.
It's magic to us.
But I know, having worked with Bob, that when they were on location in that tropical island, Bob said, "Okay, guys, we're going to do this shot." And they all climbed up to the top of that mountain. And God said, "Okay, guys, here's what I'm thinking. Tom's going to come up. The camera's going to be like here." So he's in the shot the whole time. And he gets up to the top, and he turns, and he turns, and he turns. And here's what the shot is, guys. How are we going to do it? I know that happened.
That's funny.
And so, to me, the greatest moment was, every time I got to work with Bob, it was the greatest moment.
That's awesome. So, what legacy do you hope the show and the movies leave for future horror creators?
I've begun to do a live events. I go to horror conventions near.
Okay.
And one thing that I've learned, and I love sitting with Tales from the Crypt fans, it was, for an awful lot of people, it was their gateway drug to horror. For a lot of people, it was the one that they watched, though their parents told them, "You are not watching that program," or much more often, it was the show that they watched with their parents.
Mm-hmm.
That their parents, who were horror fans, thought, I want to get my kids to love horror the way that I do. And Crypt was the show that they felt was the appropriate way to introduce them, despite the fact that, oh my God, what we do to people is absolutely disgusting and horrifying and not even remotely PG-13.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing that makes it all, it's okay, is the Crypt Keeper.
Mm-hmm, because he's telling a story.
And he's also telling you it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, murder, mayhem, and all that stuff. We're having a laugh here.
Mm-hmm.
We're laughing at it.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Crypt Keeper, really, who... And that's what they love, the stories, but really the thing that everyone, I think, really loved is the Crypt Keeper, and that means a lot to me because there's so much of me in him.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So I've got one last question. This might be difficult. I'm not exactly sure. But what would a modern Crypt reboot look like in your eyes?
All right. There can't really be one for the reasons that I described to you.
Right.
But that doesn't mean, well, all right. The Crypt Keeper could do his own show. There's nothing to stop the Crypt Keeper. You don't need the comic books to tell the kinds of stories the Crypt Keeper tells.
That's true.
Our arrangement with the Tales from the Crypt, with Bill Gaines and his estate, when we were making the show was we only had to use the title.
Right.
We could build everything else, which we had to, because really and truly we had, oh God, there were 230 individual comic stories we had to choose from,
Oh, wow.
between the Vault of Horror, all the 5 different horror titles that we had to choose from, the crime suspense stories. There were 230 some odd comic books, but of that, half of them just wipes them off because it's just not enough there. No, forget about it. It was a crap comic book story.
Right.
It's never going to make it as a TV series, a TV episode. Of the remaining 100 or so, there were really 6 or 7 variations on a theme, told with diminishing freshness. let's say.
Okay.
So, by the time we got to season 4, all the good ones had been used. By the time we got to season 6, really, we were scraping the bottom of the barrel. And I think season 7, what was under the barrel is what we were scraping up then. Yeah, but you don't need those. That was just a title and a starting point, and jumping off point. It was a story about a guy or a person who got payback in the most delicious, disgusting, ironic, disgusting way possible.
Either that or it comes back to bite him in the butt.
Yeah. So that's what the story is. Well, you don't need the comic books to come up with that kind of story. So somebody with some money, you could. Yes, you could take you could do it with the Crypt Keeper. You could do a completely different tales from the Crypt Keeper is what you call it. It's not Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Crypt Keeper. Boom, there you have it. One major stumbling block. You would have to make a deal with Joel Silver.
Yeah, that's the only thing. So here's one thing I just thought about this. Do you know anything about the animated show?
That they made that after we were done.
Okay.
We had nothing to do with that, but that happened. The animated show, and there was a game show for a while, and that there were kids shows, was because of what we did with the Crypt Keeper, because that was not the Crypt Keeper that I inherited. You couldn't have done that with.
Interesting.
He wasn't. He didn't have that kind of character. He didn't have any kind of character. Certainly not a character that would work for kids.
Right.
It was because of the way his character was created. That's he was awesome. That he had such wide application, that he wasn't just a one-note character. And you didn't know anything about him. You don't know his history, but you feel like you know him, don't you?
Oh yeah, he just felt like he just felt like a best friend that I've known for years.
Yeah.
That was the crazy thing about it.
That of everything that I've done, it wasn't my intention to. Well, it was my job just because I had to write for him. I didn't realize I was going to create a character that endured. But of all the things that have happened on this crazy ride, that is one of the best. And the fact that all these years later, an audience rediscovered him. Well, it's the kids of the people who grew up loving him. They're passing the character on to their kids. The horror community is. I love the horror community. The most. I love going to horror conventions, especially there's so many people dressed up in cosplay. I mean, it seems strange to say that all these people dressed up as Freddy and Jason and
Michael Myers.
That I can't remember the first one I went to. I saw this 5-year-old little girl done up as Leatherface, right down to the appropriately sized a chainsaw. It was a wonderful costume, but they're the sweetest people. They walk around having sublimated all their anger and rage into these characters, and so they walk around. I don't know, happy, sort of at peace with the world, even though I don't know if the world's at peace with them. But it's just a lovely, lovely community of
It
people.
is.
I enjoy being in their presence, and I love spending time with them. And one of the things that I heard again and again was how Crypt was where it started. The
Mm-hmm.
Crypt Keeper.
Mm-hmm. See, it's funny because when you had reached out to me, I had went to my mom and dad and I was like, "Do you guys know what this show is?" Because I'm 25.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I'm a youngin, so I didn't know what this was. So I went to them and they were like, "Oh yeah, that was really popular back then."
You have a much older presence, Bailey.
I've,
You have you have the presence. I'm not going to say of an older person. That's not what I mean. You have mature. You have presence, maturity, and grace, which are all in short supply. So all, all of those you radiate.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That's really reassuring to hear.
It's all true.
I appreciate that.
I have enjoyed this time with you, and I for one hope we get to do it again.
Oh, I hope so too. This is very fun. This is very, very fun.
I've had a blast.
Oh, I have. I was like super excited for this because this is something new that I had never seen before, and I just fell in love with it. I've fallen in love with it, and it's absolutely amazing. And I'm gonna keep watching it. By the way, like I'm gonna keep watching it because it's hooked me.
The next couple of seasons, 3 is good, 4 is good, 5. Okay, by 6, if you stop watching, I'll understand.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. I have to
Well,
get there.
Scott, one of the writers. We didn't have a staff. I didn't have
Right.
a staff. I was the staff. But one of the regular writers who worked for Dick Donner, he was Dick Donner's development guy. Was named Scott Nimmerfro. The last season which we shot in London. We shot in London. Why do we shoot in London? Part because it was a good idea, but also to get away from Los Angeles. It was Joel continuing to go to our crew.
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool. That's a whole bunch of stories shooting that show in London. Great idea, horrible idea, horrible idea. Like I said, after you've watched a bit more, these stories will mean even more to you. So let's plan after you've watched a bit more. If you want to ask, if you want to have a whole another session where you just now talk. Now that you've seen the show, you want to ask to have questions about that and talk about that. I'll do that. I'll come back.
Okay, sure, yeah.
There are so many stories to tell. Like I said, they'll have context. Now that you've seen the 2 movies, there's context. Bordello of Blood will mean something now that you've heard the story. Suddenly, oh my god, my god.
But I definitely did like Demon Knight more, mainly because you got the main actor from the very first episode of The Crypt to come back and play the main character in that story.
Bill Sadler.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Bill's wonderful. I love working with Bill.
He was
Bill,
amazing.
And Bill also is in. He's in the first one or the second one. He's also in. Bill's in the second movie.
Is he in the second movie?
He plays. Who's the Crypt Keeper talking to?
Oh, the Mummy.
The Mummy. That's Bill Sadler.
Oh, I didn't even realize that was him.
Yeah, it's Bill Sadler. It's Bill Sadler.
I didn't even realize that was him. He felt familiar, but I didn't, because of all the makeup and stuff, I didn't realize that's who it was.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Actually, the most fun sequences we did when the 2 times that Bill did a character playing. First time he did the character he played in Bill and Ted, Death.
Oh, okay.
From Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, he plays the Grim Reaper. So there's a coming in one of the episodes, the Grim Reaper and the Crypt Keeper are having lunch.
Oh, that's funny. I love that. Oh man. Well, I would like to thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm definitely speechless. This has been amazing. So is there anything you need to plug or anything That you haven't already
podcast, but and I'm sure there'll be some links on your page. We'll send you some links. Yeah, just come to Costard, https://costard and touchstone.com, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. The Donor, a DNA Horror Story, The Hall Closet, Just the Photographer, the How Not to Make a Movie Project, and Sage Wellness Within, and dropping in September, starting September 1st, a whole another podcast called What Makes Us Laugh that I'm doing with a comedian named G.D. Fenderson. It's about what makes us laugh personally and culturally. And the first episode is called, Does Everyone Actually Have a Sense of Humor?
I like that question.
I contend that no, in fact, not everyone has a sense of humor.
I can agree with that. Not everybody has one, and not everybody has the same humor.
Indeed, but not everyone has to have the same humor, but at least you have to have a sense of humor to begin with.
That's true.
I would argue that people who cannot laugh at themselves but can only laugh at others, that's not having a sense of humor, that's bullying.
Yeah, I can agree.
You have to be able to laugh at yourself in order, I think, to have a sense of humor. You have to be able to laugh at yourself in order to see irony.
Oh, yeah.
There are people who cannot see irony, really, and because they can't see the absurdity of the human condition. That's really what irony is about. Mm-hmm. The ridiculous contradictions that slap us on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And one of them is just the fact of being here, the irony of being here, but you won't be here forever.
Right.
You get a taste, just a short taste. Mm-hmm. If you can't see, if you can't laugh at yourself, you can't see irony, you don't have a sense of humor. Why, that sounds like Donald Trump.
That's true. That's very, very true. All right.
Whatever you say about his politics, he doesn't have a sense of humor.
Yeah, I can kind of agree. I can see that. Yeah, I can definitely see that. But again, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope we get to do this again.
Me too. Me too, Bailey. I really and truly do. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
I appreciate it. Thank you. That's all for today's episode of Popcorn Unscripted.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PopUnscripted, then Popcorn Cinema on Facebook.
And let us know your thoughts or any suggestions for future episodes. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out any future episodes. We upload every Wednesday and Saturday.
If you'd like to send us a message or subscribe for bonus content, check out the links in the description.
Your support means a lot and helps keep the conversation going.
If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to leave us a review. It helps us out a ton, and we love hearing your thoughts.
Until next time, keep your popcorn close
and your movie critiques closer.
Thanks for listening to Popcorn Unscripted.